Alright, so heavy in-game spoilers in this video. Just dodge it if you haven't seen it yet. If you're like the 1% of the population that has not seen this movie, get out of here. Go. Shoo. Don't get this movie spoiled for you, because there's going to be heavy spoilers. I'm going to be talking about every big spoiler moment, because that's where the meat and potatoes are of this freaking movie. So anyway, I'm jumping into it. This movie, holy crap. I'm going to shout out one YouTuber I really love, Tyrone Magnus. I watched his reaction. Well, not his reaction, but his review for the movie. And I think one of the things he actually said in the review, if I'm not mistaken, he said he was on the edge of his seat. Like, he didn't know what was going to come next, and he was very, like, on the edge of his seat. And I'm just like, I went into that movie not really thinking that. I knew it was going to be a gut punch here and there. But as soon as the movie started, I just kind of just flipped over into this, like, I was so invested that you couldn't really think forward in the movie. You were just so invested where they were then. And I want to just kind of go through the different story beats. I don't want to explain the whole plot through like I did with Dragon Ball Super Broly with that review. I just want to straight up talk about different moments I liked. So I'm just going to go through some big moments I can remember. And I'm going to just talk about how I feel about them. The Thanos one. Thanos at the beginning of the movie. Holy fuck, I did not expect that to happen. Thor aimed for the fucking head. He aimed for the head. Wow, I did not, because when you see the trailers building up, you thought that was the original Thanos, present day Thanos. No, present day Thanos was fucked up. He was injured. He was injured from the battle with the Avengers. He was injured from destroying the Infinity Stones. Like, half of his body was fried from destroying them. And then, pretty much, they just, like, jump him. I think it was Rocket, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Captain Marvel, and Thor. I think that was it. That was all that was there. And they fucking came in there and fucked his shit up. I don't blame them. I mean, I was fucking with it. But when he dies that fast, you realize, like, how weak Thanos actually is. Like, how much of a weakened state he is. And how much he really did rely on those stones for power. Which, I mean, that was the obvious point of why he was getting them. He wanted the power to wipe out half of the universe. That was the whole point of the previous movie. But, pretty much, Thor aims for the head, cuts his head right off, and it rolls off. Oh, and Nebula was there, too. Nebula was there, and she has kind of like a mixed moment with his head. It's kind of reminiscent of Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones, and he's like, he picks up Jango Fett's helmet, and he puts it up against his head, because that was his father, and his father's gone now. But that's kind of how she was. She didn't love Thanos, but it was one of those things. He was a father figure to her and Gamora. So it's like one of those things. It's kind of like that weird step-parent relationship type thing, that they act as a father figure to you, but you don't really love them like they're your real father. It's a confusing thing. But I'll be honest, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, he aimed for the head when that happened. I kind of chuckled. I'm like, he aimed for the head. I'm like, damn. They didn't waste no time. And then it cuts to black after that. And it goes 5 years later. And I'm like, 5 years? I'm like, that don't really surprise me. But I'm like, fuck, they went this long? Is this how the movie's gonna go? They just kill Thanos and are they gonna bring the stones back into existence? What are they gonna do? And I already knew somewhat about the time travel with the quantum realm. It was teased in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I didn't know if they were gonna go that route. That was the thing. And you kind of see where everyone that's currently alive, how dark of a movie it really is gonna be, because At the beginning, you start out with Hawkeye, and it kind of gets kind of dark like Infinity War was, because Infinity War was not as dark as a movie as Endgame was, because Endgame, the whole time, you had half of the universe wiped from existence, and a lot of these characters feel like it's their fault that this happened. They weren't strong enough, or they didn't do the right move to stop Thanos. Thanos is dead, but they couldn't bring back the people that they lost. So it's just kind of like Thanos is just a part of the half of the universe that's dead now. He's just... There's really no point to really say we're happy because Thanos is dead. Because at the end of the day, it didn't matter if Thanos was dead or alive as long as they could bring back their people. That's what the big one was. I mean, obviously, it's a big relief that Thanos is dead, obviously, but I'm just trying to think now what really happens, because from there it starts to pick up like very fast. Like, it's kind of slow in the beginning, I know what people said, but you're still on the edge of your seat because you're just like, what the fuck? They just killed Thanos at the beginning of the movie. He's the big bad. And pretty much I'm just gonna kind of go into it now. The time travel, they have some time travel and movie jokes, and they're like Back to the Future, Hot Tub Time Machine. I kind of chuckled at those, but they explained kind of like, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan and you know how the time travel works there, you could do something in the past, but it won't affect your future at all. That's the idea here. There's no butterfly effect. So Thanos dying in the past would not result in Thanos in the future getting killed and the events in the future changing because the Thanos of the past died. No, they're two separate timelines. They're two separate ones. But if you do something in one of these timelines, it could branch off into a different timeline, which we see when Loki grabs the Tesseract. That is going to cause a branch off because they fucked up and he grabbed the Tesseract. But I kind of liked how they showed some of the older scenes from movies and all that from different perspectives in order to get the stones back. And they just... I liked the time travel aspect of it. I really did. That was probably the only way they were going to go. And let's be honest, I just found this out last night that the Russo brothers did confirm that rat or mouse or whatever it was that stepped on the button to let Ant-Man out of the quantum realm. That was the actual one time that they won was because of that rat. The other times, those like 14 million times that he saw an outcome, that rat did not step on that button for some reason. I'm just like, are you fucking serious? So it's just like, all the shit that the Avengers do was because, well, not everything that they do, but everything past Ant-Man out of the quantum realm was because of that rat. And because this rat stepped on that button, I know how important that rat was because he stepped on the button, let Ant-Man out. Ant-Man got out from that security guard. He came to him. They talked about quantum realm and how they could possibly time travel and how it was out of his jurisdiction because he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. He wasn't smart. So there was Bruce Banner, which, surprise, surprise, Professor Hulk, and he's like a fan favorite with people in that universe. Like, I guess that's what happens when you're a big green guy. You're pretty noticeable compared to everyone else who's like white, black, Asian, all that good stuff. Like, it's just kind of funny. It's funny. I like it how they came up, and then they had an awkward moment with that scene where Ant-Man was like, "Oh, I bet you want a picture with me," or it was either Bruce Banner that said that or Ant-Man. And then Ant-Man was trying to give his phone back, or give their phone back to him. So they don't want a picture with me. And Professor Hulk was just like, yeah, they want a picture with you. You know they do. And they're like, no, not really. And it got very awkward very fast. And it's just like, come on, let's skip this scene. That was the only really awkward scene I've ever seen, really, in a movie that made me feel really awkward. But it was still kind of funny at the beginning because, I mean, it was funny but awkward humor. And yeah, that scene was just, it was whatever. I wasn't really like a big fan of the scene, obviously. But there was they just really, they did a good job. Like, I was hoping they would go more into like how people were, like, they showed people walking on the street and like showed how depressing it was. Like, not really focus on it for a long time, but just have like a scene or two. But I think their way of showing how people reacted to it was with one of the Russo brothers. He cameoed in his own movie as a gay man and said he went on a date, and he explained how I think only his date was crying over the fact that obviously the half of the universe was wiped away, and how that affected everybody. Like, everybody was just in this state of, and this is 5 years after the snap too. This is how different it is. And another scene that they did was when Ant-Man was on the road. This kid drives past him on a bicycle. He said, "Hey kid, what happened here?" The kid looks back and starts tearing up, and he looks forward and keeps riding. I said, you know, he probably lost somebody important to him, like a parent or both of his parents. Maybe he's orphaned now. Maybe he's living with a friend or something. You just never know what it is. That it doesn't really go into detail. It just shows that kid lost people. And speaking of losing people, once they start figuring out the quantum realm and all that, it was actually Tony. I don't know. They didn't really clarify if Tony was working on figuring out time travel before Ant-Man came to him talking about it, or he started work on it like after Ant. Like, they didn't really explain if he was already working on it. It's not always been in the works. He just happened to test something out and it worked. It came out the way he wanted it to, and he flipped out, and it led to a funny scene with him and his daughter. Really funny scene. It's funny. But oh, and then they go into the quantum realm. That's when they start like doing time travel and all that. And pretty much Hawkeye or Ronin, whatever you want to say, you could refer to him as Ronin in this movie, I guess, because he kind of leans more back towards Hawkeye as when he sees his family when he goes on the test run in the quantum realm. He sees his family, he pulls back from that Ronin attitude, which he still knows he's been like a kind of an evil person. He's went and killed people that are doing wrong, but he's also doing it out of the spite that his family got killed. That's the reason why. But pretty much Ronin, I'll refer to him as Ronin, and Black Widow, they go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, and pretty much, and, oh, let me just say this too. When you're in the movie, maybe you're not so invested that you could see this coming, but majority of people I've watched and talked to, and even for myself, I forgot all about sacrificing someone for the Soul Stone because I was so invested on how they were doing everything in the movie. I was paying attention, but I was just so invested. I wasn't even thinking about that. And when they got to the planet and Red Skull popped up, I said, fuck, they have to sacrifice someone. I'm like, it hit me when he popped up. I said, fuck. I'm like, one of them's not leaving this planet alive. And for me, I've been learning more about like storytelling over the past couple months, and I know when a character is like, I have nothing to lose at all, when they legit have nothing to lose, like Black Widow did. They were really building her up to be the sacrifice in that moment, because throughout the movie she didn't really have anything to lose. She didn't have a family. She didn't really, well, as far as we know, we don't know if she really had family that I'm aware of. But Hawkeye, he was fighting for his family, so him sacrificing himself for his family to be brought back, that would just kill the whole purpose of him coming along and trying to get his family back, because he wouldn't live to see his family again. So that's when Black Widow was just like, they did it in the subtle way where both of them were talking about they're going to sacrifice themselves, but they thought they were meaning like when Ronan said, I think we know who needs to go, and she's like, yeah, we do. But she's thinking she's going to jump and sacrifice himself while he's thinking he's going to be the one to do it. But they're both thinking they're going to kill themselves. So that's when it leads into Black Widow. I think she like fucking body slams him and just starts darting towards the edge so she could kill herself so he can get the stone and work to bring his family back. And yeah, that's kind of how it goes. It's just like a sad fight scene, and Black Widow falls to her death and he obtains the Soul Stone. And so after he gets the Soul Stone, he comes back and everyone thinks they've completed their mission, which everyone did, but a lot of them didn't know that they had to sacrifice someone for the Soul Stone. Obviously, Hawkeye and Black Widow didn't know that, which surprised me that Nebula didn't say anything. And we'll get to Nebula in a second. So, pretty much, he comes back, they start talking, and they're like, where's Nat? And he just looks down, and it's just, you could tell they're all just like, fuck, we lost somebody, but it had to be that way in order. And he explains that. He said they're all pissed off at him. They're like, we could bring her back, we could do something. He's like, I think he says to Bruce Banner, he's like, well, he's just like, if we could bring her back, go tell the red guy to bring her back then, because the way he made it sound, in order to get this stone, someone we loved had to be sacrificed. He's like, I want to bring her back, but we can't. We had to do it for this. And the thing is that made it more like of a gut punch. And it made it more of a gut punch, but also not as much, is because she wanted to do it. And you as an audience member understood why she wanted to do it. And understand it had to be her. Between the two, it had to be her. And I'm glad it was set up that way. But also, it was sad that she had to give her life to bring half of the universe back. But swinging back around to Nebula. Nebula pretty much gets snatched up by Thanos. Or the 2014 version of Thanos, which at this time Gamora is not really evil, she's just trying to stay alive. Nebula is evil at this point in time. So we see a past Nebula and present Nebula kind of conversing and all that. And they pretty much figure out that there is something going on here because both Nebulas are on the same frequency, I'm guessing, for their technology. And they beam her up, take her Pym particles, and supposedly, I forget his fucking name, Thanos' right-hand man, he pretty much takes the Pym particles and pretty much makes more so they could jump to the present. So the reason why you don't see Nebula talking when they jump back from the quantum realm is because she's not the real Nebula. She's just hanging around in the background, and they're saving that for when they're about to do the snap to undo what Thanos did, which will lead into the climax. So, she's in there by the quantum realm, portal thing. I don't know what you would call that. A quantum realm teleporter, maybe? We'll just call it the quantum realm portal. Let's just say that. And she's in there trying to bring Thanos to the present. And Iron Man makes one of two of the gauntlets you see for Iron Man. There's 2 Iron Man gauntlets in this movie. So the first one is a legit gauntlet that someone else can put on their hand, like how Thanos's was. And supposedly Hulk put it on his left. I didn't really pay attention to which hand he put it on. But he put it on his left hand and he snapped. And the thing was that it had to be Hulk because of his gamma radiation throughout his body. And he was the only one that could take that. Which I'm sure Thor could have. I mean, the motherfucker took the power of a sun. I'm sure. I know that's not as far of a stretch for all 6 Infinity Stones using their power at once. But I feel like Thor could take it as much as Hulk could. But pretty much Hulk snaps and half of the universe comes back. But that they're saving that for the climax of the movie to bring those people back. So at this point they succeeded. And they're about to go back into the quantum realm and take all the stones back to their rightful places. And then fucking Thanos just comes through the fucking portal with his ship, and he's hovering above the sky. They're like shut up in the Avengers headquarters. They pretty much got it like locked down because of the snap effect, and they didn't want it to like destroy everything and all that good shit. They didn't want it to destroy the Avengers headquarters. So Thanos is hovering above it, and he just fucking rains fire after Hulk snaps. Because it's like this beautiful scene. Just imagine that Ant-Man's looking outside, and it was real quiet outside, but now the sun was shining bright. There's birds and squirrels outside. He's like, guys, I think it worked. And then Thanos just fucking rains. He just fucking all fucking fires off the fucking Avengers headquarters. I'm sorry, I like this part of the movie because it was just like life came back, and then Thanos just fucking pummeled it back to the ground and killed everything there. Besides, obviously, the Avengers and everyone in that building. And after the Avengers headquarters is pretty much annihilated, I'm trying to think what happens. I know that Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, they all fight Thanos. It's just Thanos waits for them to come to him, and they all fight him. And I think this is the same part. I know around this fight, that's when Cap wields Mjolnir. So that was the scene I dodged for a spoiler when I was about to watch this movie. Like the day before I was about to watch this movie, I about got this scene spoiled for me. I know he wields Mjolnir in this fight, but this fight was so fucking long between that part and then the snap victims all coming in to rally against Thanos and his forces. And pretty much after that, Cap gets his ass beat. Thor, he's pretty much got stabbed by Stormbreaker. Which, I mean, he isn't dead, but it's went into his skin a little bit, and that's when Cap saves him. And he's weakened from battle. Iron Man, obviously, is weakened from battle. And Cap is the only one really standing, and he has his shield half destroyed, and then Mjolnir. And he fucking unsnaps his shield, grabs Mjolnir, and just has the meanest look on him. Because he knows he's about to fucking die. And all you hear is on left. And then you're just like, he stops and he's like, what? He's like, what the fuck just... He's like looking around, and Thanos is just standing there like, you're about to die. Just, you can act crazy if you want. I don't care, but I'm about to kill you. And then you see one of Doctor Strange's portals open. And you see Wakanda, Black Panther, Okoye, they all start walking out. It's everyone from Wakanda that got snapped. And they walk out, and then Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, they come out. And then there's just like a shitload of other people that come out of more portals. And pretty much everyone from phase 1 of the past, like, I think 3 phases, the past 3 phases of Marvel, like, everyone joins in on this fight. This is pretty much the moment it's all been built up to be. And then we get the most, I think, probably everyone's favorite part. And I'm so glad they did it this way too, because I was hoping if Cap said Avengers, and if he yelled a symbol, it wouldn't have been that much to me. But I'm glad he said Avengers, a symbol. Like, he said it so, like, calm. And then the fucking music starts. Everyone rushes Thanos. Thanos takes out his sword, and he just aims towards them. And all of his men rush towards the Avengers and everyone else fighting on their side. And it just becomes a fucking all-out war against Thanos and the Avengers, and everyone's fighting, killing his men. It's getting crazy. And then they start passing off the Infinity Gauntlet, which was I think it was Iron Man's Infinity Gauntlet. I might be wrong on that, but they're passing that off to get it to the they were trying to get the stones through the quantum realm and take them back into the past and get that done. But Thanos gets a hold of the gauntlet. And this is pretty much the part where Doctor Strange was building up the in-game portion of, we're in the in-game now. This is it. This is the one. And Iron Man's just like, please, Doc, tell me this is it. This is the one. He's like, if I tell you, it won't happen. And then right when it's about to happen, and it happens. It legit happens. Iron Man starts fighting Thanos, and you're like, he's about to die. Thanos is about to work him, and he's gonna snap again. And he fucking beats Iron Man down. And then Iron Man's like pushed back. He's on the ground bleeding. He looks like he's lost. And Thanos pulls out the gauntlet, snaps, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. And you're just like, what happened to the stones? And then fucking Iron Man pulls out his arm, and he has all the stones within his nanotech. And the nanotech pretty much, he made his own gauntlet, I guess, on the spot with his nanotech to absorb the power of the stones. And pretty much he has his own like homemade gauntlet, like on the spot. And he looks at Thanos, and he's just like, I am Iron Man, and snaps. All of Thanos' people get wiped out, which, all of his people get wiped out. You see all of his main, like, side people get killed off. They get withered away. And then it's just Thanos. He's left. And Thanos sits down, and he just looks off, and he gets dusted. Probably the most satisfying, probably more satisfying than him getting his head cut off, was him getting dusted. Because I feel like that was the proper way to kill Thanos. Get back. And I know people's have problems with that. Like, why would the superheroes get revenge like that? It's just like, they're not trying to build the superheroes up to be perfectly balanced human beings that do good all the time. They're people just like us. They just have powers, or they have smarts, or something. They're gods or whatever. They're just like us. That's what Marvel excels at with these heroes. They make them feel flawed. They're just like us. We can relate to them. That's why it's succeeded all these years. But yeah, and pretty much we get this probably one of the saddest scenes, which I'll be honest, I fucking cried like a bitch at this part, because Tony is literally, he's gone. There's no Tony left, really. And you look at him, and he's just like, half of his body is fried like Hulk's was. And he's just sitting there laid up against something. He's just like staring, and you know he's gone. Like, the power is pretty much just drained his life away. Like, he's gone. He's barely there mentally. And Spider-Man comes up. He said, Mr. Stark, we did it, Stark. And then he's just like, Mr. Stark? And it breaks you, because you know in the last movie, it was Iron Man. He lost the kid. That was the biggest. He tried to make sure that Spider-Man would stay back home and be safe. But in all actuality, he probably would have got snapped either way. But, yeah, you see Iron Man die, and Pepper says probably the most heartfelt line. She said, you can rest now, Tony. And that's probably like this, and it parallels what she said at the beginning of the movie about how he'll never be able to rest. And I'm glad they paralleled it like that, because it's a beautiful moment. Then we see his funeral. There's no real post-credit scene in this movie. And yeah,